All right, welcome back to the Left Lane Zoomers. It has been a while since we've uploaded anything. I think the last time we uploaded was when we were giving our election day predictions, and needless to say, a lot has happened in the last month and a half. But yeah, this is not a normal episode. So I'm Harry Rawson. I'm here with once again James Russell, and just having a conversation about just generally what's happened within like the last month, or we could fill up the whole hour just talking about what's happened in the last week or so, because
Yes, I was
a
going to say
lot,
that too.
yeah, a lot has happened. Well, I guess like the most funny piece of news, I guess, well, ironically funny, is this study by Business Insider. It's like a 50-year study, like, or study shows that, like over 50 years of tax cuts for the rich, it shows that trickle down economics only makes inequality worse. And I'm like,
Hmm.
don't say, huh?
Yeah, what were the odds of that? Rich people getting rich for themselves and the poor suffering? Yeah, who would have thought that wouldn't turn out?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, just like giving the rich more money and taking more from lower income people. What did you think was going to happen? You don't have to be an economist, or like, you just need a basic understanding of history and common sense to understand, like, if someone explains like trickle down to you, like, oh, if you give the rich more money, the benefits will trickle down to everybody. You like, yeah, you just need a little bit of common sense to realize, sounds like bullshit, you know.
Yeah, there's a really funny, I can't remember if it's a video or like a meme, but it shows this person and they've got a cup and they're pouring wine and there's, it's like one of those wine fountains or whatever. There's like glass, like a triangle of glasses and they're pouring wine into the top one. Like, this is trickle down and this is me getting all the money from Congress. And then it fills up and then she takes it and puts another one there. She's like, where are you putting that one? Into my offshore
Yeah,
bank account.
yeah, like that's
But I think what
basically,
pisses me off,
yeah.
hmm?
Keep going, sorry.
Well, what pisses me off about this study is that it confirms everything that I pretty much always know, that I think most working class people know, um, and yet nothing's going to change. You're still
Yeah,
going to have the same Republican crime party in charge. They're going to be writing these awful bills, $1.5 trillion tax cuts, and they're pissing and moaning about $900 billion, which isn't even the full amount in stimulus checks that are going to go to the working class. Nothing in this study is really going to change anything, and it pisses me off that the Democrats don't take advantage of this. And I remember during the debates, Biden, there was a study from Moody's um, that he would create way more jobs than Trump would, because of course he would. And like, where's your mouthpiece talking about that? I mean, why is that not the thing you're hammering over and over and over? Trump's economy failed. Your economy is a bright spot. That's your economic message. And it's just so frustrating that these studies keep showing how fraudulent all the Republican economic policies are, and nothing changes.
yeah, and yeah, like, and the thing is, it's like, I really hope, yeah, like Joe Biden does repeal the Trump tax cuts, because because of those tax cuts, it was like, last year there was a study that showed that the richest families in the country were paying an effective lower tax rate than the bottom half of the country. And like and that's like the first time in recent American history, like, we've not seen like this level of gross wealth inequality since the Gilded Age. And yeah, like, there's very few things that are being done about it. And like, it was kind of like how it was either earlier this year or like late 2019. It was in that area of time in which there was the Afghanistan papers, in which it was basically confirming what we knew. Like, we were not there really to stop terrorists, or at least not now. Like, we could have gone there originally, but we're staying there for other reasons, and we're doing some pretty horrific things there. And nothing has changed. No effort to really withdraw troops from Afghanistan, no effort to cut the military budget. uh you know and like, in fact, there's been like you know there was like that 10% cut amendment that Bernie had proposed, and there was another one in the House that was voted down bipartisanly. and then most recently in the overwhelming majority, like I think it was like 75 senators voted in a $740 billion military budget. Like what the hell makes you think that's okay? And like the thing is, like Trump said, like if it passed, like he was gonna veto it. It was like but the thing is, like 75 senators, like that's both two-thirds of over
Yeah,
two-thirds of the
veto proof.
House and the Senate made it
Mhm.
veto proof. So it's like I wish Trump was able to veto it, because it's like that, like yeah, 740 billion. That's just ridiculous. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And what
like 10% was
he
gonna
wanted to
be like
veto it
completely
because
inconsequential.
yeah, and why did he wanted to veto it because Twitter was being mean to him? Wasn't that like some of the things, this is one of the very, very extremely rare occasions where it's like the thing you want to do is good. The reason why you want to do it is why you're an asshole. Like I think that was it, right? Twitter was mean to him. Like, we're not going to approve the military, okay, unless they stop being mean. Section 230, okay, that's 230. Big number, such a big number. We need to repeal it. And it's like, that's the one thing where it's like, okay, you want to lower the military budget. Cool. We're on eye on that. But I want to do it because they're mean to me, okay, on Twitter. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. I mean, like, for whatever reason, what he wants to do it, like, I mean, like, if it's just because people are being mean to him on Twitter and he's not getting any, like, really malicious material gain out of it, like, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well,
yeah, as
going
long
back
as
to
he gets
really
to satisfy his own petty uh,
grievances.
grievances.
Yeah. I want to go back real quick what you were saying about the trickle down. Trickle down has been exposed as such bullshit under Trump and after the Trump tax scam that even Republican economists who were championing trickle down policy have now totally flipped and been like, no, fuck this, we were wrong. Like I can't remember who, but it's some pretty prominent right wing people on Twitter. And it's amazing how a little fascism will wake them up to the actual struggles of the working class. So I just wanted to throw that in there that it's been exposed. And again, if the Democrats were worth a shit on any types of communication or getting their message, that would be the thing that they have. Because you see this on Republican Twitter. You go to, pedophile covering Jim Jordan, or you go to treasonous Matt Gaetz drinking on the job. You go to any of their Twitter feeds. What's their message? It's hammering Biden, going after Hunter. It's very consistent. It's constant, always. And the only person that matches anything like that method is AOC. You go to her Twitter feed, and she's always about, this is the message, this is the message, this is the message, and she's very clear on what her policy is. And I compared her to like Nancy Pelosi's Twitter feed. And Nancy Pelosi is like, I am so grateful that we are going to be working with our partner in the DOD. And thank you to our overseas partners who are now going to be championing this cause of ours. Like, that's like politispeak is going to drive people crazy. And as mean as Republican Twitter is, they get through. And AOC isn't nearly as mean as she is, but she gets through, and we need more of that.
I honestly think AOC needs to get meaner, and like as far as like both how she
Good
deals with
work.
Republicans as well as establishment Democrats. In fact, that's something I wanted to talk about, because it was like right after we had scheduled this one-on-one that lefty Twitter had just exploded with a debate. It started with Jimmy Dore. I don't know if you know who he is. Do you?
Uh, I saw briefly the exchange. Isn't he like a football player or something? What's his?
Oh no, that was someone different. But he was basically saying what Jimmy Dore was saying. Anyway, Jimmy Dore, I don't think you would like him that much. He's a very controversial figure on the left. Like,
Why?
okay, well, like I'm not gonna
Just
go
briefly.
too much into it,
Yeah.
but Jimmy Dore, he is so like he's agrees with most lefties that Democrats also are a problem, as well as the Republicans, or at least like establishment Democrats. But
Mm.
he sees them as a bigger problem than the Republicans for a very because like it's kind of like you know the wolf versus the wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing. And
Okay.
he sees like the Democrats as a wolf in sheep's clothing, and
Mm.
he does kind of go off into the weeds of conspiracy theories here and there. And he can, and like he's gone a little crazier over the years. And also like he got a lot of shit on the left because like the I mean, even though he agrees with most, he agrees with most lefty policies, like he and I agree on a lot of things policy wise. What determines who he's voting for more than anything is who is the most anti-democratic establishment, and that led him to endorsing Tulsi Gabbard in the 2020 primary.
Oh, God, I need mouthwash after hearing that sentence.
Well, like I have many issues with Tulsi Gabbard. I agree with her a lot on a lot of things policy wise, but yeah, like yeah, I preferred Bernie because A, I think I just agree more with him, and then B, it's just like I thought he had a better, like he did have a better chance than Tulsi, but yeah, like
Yeah, he had a better grassroots for sure.
yeah,
But
like
so, but yeah, so going back to, so what I did see briefly the exchange, it's basically about a Medicare for all floor vote in the House of Reps, right?
yeah, and basically, what Jimmy Dore was saying, like he was going to a clip in which AOC was talking about like it was a very viral clip that went viral last year, in which he was talking about like how we don't have a left or a right party, we have a right party and a center right party. And how in any other country she and Joe Biden wouldn't be in the same party, and she was saying like we can't get a floor vote on Medicare for all. Jimmy Dore was saying, well, you can do that by withholding your vote from Nancy Pelosi as speaker. Basically saying like what you can do is like what you can do is that you and other members of the Progressive Caucus withhold your vote from her for speaker, and say like we're not going to endorse you for speaker unless you give us a floor vote on Medicare for all, because the speaker has a
Okay,
lot of
yeah.
power, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
AOC didn't respond directly to Jimmy Dore, but he responded to a Los Angeles Chargers player. Like they're in LA, right? The Chargers.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Or
but
no, isn't that the Rams?
well, there's two Los Angeles
I
teams.
don't know. It's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have fucking everything out here.
Well, like, but yeah, it was her with the Chargers player, and you know, and they were basically having a back and forth about like the costs and the benefits of you know forcing a floor vote in that way, and you know and the football player, I keep forgetting his name. I think it was like Justin something, Justin Johnson, something like that. Anyway,
Hmm.
he kept on saying like, yeah, you have political capital, you being like a major figure in politics, like this early in your political career, and like so you are able to do this. And then AOC was saying like, what's the point in setting up a floor vote that we know is going to fail? Even if it does pass the House, it would fail the Senate. Like Mitch McConnell, assuming that you know Republicans maintain the majority, like if both of the Georgia runoff elections are lost to the Republicans. And even then, if we have like the 50-50 plus Kamala with the tiebreaker, it wouldn't pass then, because we have assholes like Joe Manchin on top, and then on top of that, just some more like more centrist Democrats just don't like the idea of Medicare for all in general. So like basically, as AOC was saying, like what's the point in doing this if it's going to fail? And I can honestly see merit to both sides of the argument, because, what we can do is if we do force a Medicare for all vote, like we will get a list of names of who needs to go in the on the Democratic side. Like we will know exactly who to primary, because you can have co-sponsors who sign on to the bill, but that doesn't mean anything because Kamala Harris was the first to sign on to Bernie's bill. And then, from like when she talked about it in the first round of debates, she did receive a little bit of pressure from her richer donors, and then she just kind of backed off on it. So, like a list of co-sponsors doesn't mean anything. What we need is we need the votes. We need to know like who will actually vote for it. So, yeah, like and like yeah, like if we can get that vote, like we will know who to primary. If it passes, it passes. That's good. If it doesn't pass, we know who, we got a list of names.
Well, I don't think you need that floor vote to get the list of names. I think you, at this point, after the primary and after seeing who has been elected and what their platform was, I think you can reasonably guess where the votes stand.
Yeah,
I'm with AOC on this. You're right. There are very good points to both of this. It reminds me of union organizing, where like if you want to go on a strike for a contract, or maybe if it's not a contract, maybe if you want to go on a strike for some kind of issue, you need to make sure that issue is worth it, because that is a very, very big thing to do. It's a very big risk, and you're putting your members through a hell of a lot of tough times uh, to come up empty-handed. So you need to make sure that what you're fighting for has a good opportunity to succeed. And I, with AOC on this, I don't think it has any opportunity to succeed as of right now. So she's showing a lot of pragmatism in this. And I do remember that Twitter exchange. She was saying, why do that when we can do like a minimum wage bill? We can get more climate change. We can get more progressive people on cabinet positions. We can leverage these issues of a speakership vote for something that we know we can accomplish. It's not as big. It's not the number one priority that we want, but we can, like a minimum wage. Are you kidding me? Fuck yes, I am
yeah,
willing to drop the Medicare for all issue for the short term to get a minimum wage. That is far past, if that's the trade-off, along with all these other things that she's talking about, by all means, like, let's go.
yeah,
You know, and I'm sure I gotta think Bernie would feel the same. We need to put Medicare for all aside and get a minimum wage for the working class, you know? So
yeah,
I'm with her. Let's do it.
yeah. I wouldn't necessarily like call it like putting Medicare for all to the side, but like it would just be more or less trying to like what we can get done what we can get done as
Yeah.
far as like progressive issues. And $15 minimum wage is something that, you know, all lefties in Congress, among some people in the Democratic side, and then even some Republicans, you know, can have some commonality with. But I don't think like Bernie would ever say, you know, like let's put like Medicare for all to the side. Like I
Yeah.
think
I
he
mean,
would
poor
always be
phrasing,
like,
but you understand what
yeah,
I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Well, like and another thing, there's another progressive host, Farron Cousins from Ring of Fire, who was talking about this, uh, talking about like this debate, and he was saying, you know, like it or not, polling for Medicare for all has gone down. And so
Yeah.
like when it comes to like
I
getting our
understand that.
message out there, um, you know, like we're basically back to square one.
Yeah.
So like and like AOC was saying to Justin Johnson, we need to do more grassroots organizing. We need to keep campaigning for this issue. And like people are saying like, well, we've done that already. And people are just, I guess like these people are paying attention to like earlier polls in which 70% of the country wants Medicare for all, including 50% of Republican voters, you
Yep.
know, and but yeah, like sadly it has gone down. And I think a big reason for that is because we haven't had Bernie going out there regularly talking about Medicare for all. It's been mostly just focused on the debate that's being had between Biden and Trump on healthcare, and both are pretty bad
Yeah,
in
and that's
certain
also the other thing is it's hard to say let's have this Medicare for all fight when, with all due respect, for a reason that still blows my fucking mind, Medicare for all was on the ballot in the primary and it didn't win. So you would just be asking for an extra loss, and I don't understand how the polling is going down. That's just beyond me. I'll never understand it. Well, obviously, a lot of it is because of the socialism scare card that the Republicans always
yeah,
play, and the Democrats being too chicken shit to actually stand up to their values. But in
yeah,
terms of what else is factoring in, I don't know, and it's disheartening.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that, you know, it was like Medicare for all who lost. It was just Bernie that lost because like, you know, Bernie throughout the primary, regardless of how he was in the poll, like how he stood in the polling himself, you know, he was always like the most trusted on pretty much every single issue across the board. It was just all about electability. Electability is like the argument that won Joe Biden the nomination. And like and again, that's a kind of a bullshit argument. Like what, like how do you know like who's electable? Like your vote makes them
Yeah,
electable. Like all these people who are saying like, oh, I agree with Bernie, I just don't think he can win, so I can't vote for him in the primary. You know,
yeah,
like people will get too scared of the socialist label, and you know, election after election as of recent keeps on showing that's not true. Like I always like to go to Lee Carter, who is currently serving in the Virginia House of Delegates. Because like he ran in a district that had been red since the 80s when, in the 80s when it like the district was first created. And, and he ran as an open democratic socialist. He ran without financial backing of the state party. Um, and, he was being constantly compared to, Stalin and Mao by his opponent.
Jesus.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, his opponent, the incumbent, was also the majority whip in our state house, and he got more votes in that election than any other election. But Lee Carter still won. It was like, like how, Donald Trump got more votes than any other incumbent president had before, but still Joe Biden got more. So it's like, so even though, yeah, like more people came out for this guy than ever before, it wasn't enough. The Democratic Socialists won in a deep red district, and he got reelected in 2019.
Similar to
And
Katie Porter, yeah.
yeah, and like Katie Porter, like that happened. Like she, yeah, is in a swing district, and matter of fact, all progressives who ran in 2020 like rewon their districts. So like I don't know why.
It's because they stood
Yeah,
by their values. The
yeah,
Democrat, the establishments, as you say, don't do that.
yeah, and the people who lost their seats on the Democratic side were all these like right wing, anti-gun control, pro-life Democrats, and and they're blaming the lefties for their losses. And, you have like John Kasich out there, like blaming lefties for, Joe Biden winning as narrowly as he did, because he was supposed to win by much more than he did. And he won in the electoral college, at least like before like the electoral college vote, he basically got the exact same margin Trump did over Hillary Clinton, with the electoral college. And
yeah, the electoral college basically was like karma, bitch.
like it's but the thing is, like, John Kasich was supposed to be like doing voter outreach in Ohio for Joe Biden. Joe Biden lost Ohio, and like he's the first president elect in like 50 years or something like that to or 60 years now. Yeah, 1960 it was. Like he's the first president elect in 60 years to lose both Ohio and Florida.
Yeah, I think it was
And
Nixon to JFK. JFK,
yeah,
not JFK, to JFK. JFK
yeah,
Jr. Jesus.
yeah. I don't think that dude was ever in politics, was
No, I've been reading too much on the QAnon terrorists. I need a break from their craziness.
But yeah, and then yeah, if anything, the lefties helped him, because Ilhan Omar was a big reason why Biden won Minnesota. And people were talking about, like, we're giving credit to these majority black cities, in places like Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, Detroit and Michigan, Atlanta and
Is
Georgia.
Ilhan from Minnesota? I thought that was Rashida Tlaib.
Rashida Tlaib is from Michigan. I was just going to talk about her because like she represents
Oh,
Detroit, and like people are saying we
okay.
need to thank the black people of Detroit for giving Biden Michigan. Rashida Tlaib was really working her ass off to get voter outreach, like to get the voter turnout up.
And Stacey Abrams in Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah, and Stacey
Yeah.
Abrams from Georgia, who's like, she's not, I wouldn't necessarily call her like as left as these other people, but she's kind of like in the center between like centrist and progressive. Like I like her a little. I like her quite a bit. She's
Yeah.
okay.
She's
And
hella smart. She blows my
she's
mind
very
every time
smart.
I hear her speak. Yeah. Her and
Yeah.
Katie Porter both. Every time I hear them speak, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, you guys are way smarter than I am.
Well, like, what I found interesting about Stacey Abrams is that before she was in public service, she wrote erotic novels.
Yeah,
And,
I remember.
and it's the kind of thing in which like Republicans would be like, like these impure people or whatever.
Yeah,
Right?
she's anti-family values. She's gonna curse your children. They're gonna be having sex.
Yeah, but they never
Or
said
they
that
wouldn't
about
even say
Stacey
they're gonna be
Abrams.
having sex. They'd be like, your kids are gonna be having the sex.
Well, like the thing is, they never even said those things about Stacey Abrams or writing,
Didn't they?
because
Oh wow.
but like I never heard anything. It's not like they could, because I was being represented by Denver Riggleman, the guy who wrote the Bigfoot porn shit. And it was
Really?
just,
Oh.
like, remember like that? It was like they did a whole Weekend Update routine on SNL about it.
Oh
in which
dear.
it was like Mikey Day as Denver Riggleman saying like, like this isn't Bigfoot porn, it's Bigfoot erotica, you know.
Oh yes, I do remember that now. Jesus, I can't believe how quickly some of the more funnier things that happen in politics just like go by to be replaced by the latest Trump shit tweet storm.
Yeah. Like that,
Because
like that.
he's always tweeting, he's always rage poop tweeting. You know, he does it so much. It even has its own acronym. It's called RPT, but because it's him, it's pronounced raped.
True.
Yeah, very fucking true. We'll see what happens with this E. Jean Carroll lawsuit against him. I hope he has to turn over his. I hope on the same day he's dragged out of the White House by Secret Service is the day that he has to turn over his DNA. It's like, all right, come on now, pee in a cup, let's go.
Well, like there's another thing I saw that, there are people in the state of New York who are looking at his dealings with Deutsche Bank, and if like, and they could prosecute him before he leaves office, and since it would be on a state charge, like there's no doubt about it, like he couldn't pardon himself because pardoning is only for federal crimes, at least at the, like
Yeah.
presidential pardoning is only for federal crimes. So like if he were prosecuted at the state level, like yeah, he couldn't pardon himself, and Pence couldn't pardon him afterwards. You know, if he did try to pardon himself,
Maybe the fly
like,
would.
yeah. Hmm?
Maybe Pence's fly could.
Maybe. But yeah,
Yeah,
that fly, I
he's going to
swear
be
to God.
going to jail for the rest of his life, though. There's no doubt about it. The New York AG and so many, he's going to be facing lawsuits and criminal investigations for the rest of his life. He's going to get an orange jumpsuit to match his orange face.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, he's going to be facing, legal troubles for the rest of his life. But just looking at how, the Bush administration didn't get what was supposed to be coming to them when they left, I don't think, sadly, I think the same thing is going to be happening with Trump, in which, like, they're going to be talking like, oh, we're going to prosecute his ass to the full extent of the law, and then nothing's going to happen.
I think this is going to be very, very different. Bush was
I hope so.
obviously a criminal, but he wasn't as brazen and open about it. I mean, Trump admitted that he wanted Russia to attack our country, and then 3 hours later they did it. You know, he admits on air that he wants all these other countries to interfere, or he's going to withhold military aid. I mean, these are all statements that are going to come back and put him in an 8 by 10.
Yeah, I hope you're right, because like he does deserve to go to jail, but it's just like the history of how the justice system treats the people who are in power. It's just like
Mhm.
like it's gonna be a little bit. It's just like a little hard to believe that is what's gonna happen. But I do hope you're right, because
I
he really does
yeah,
deserve to go to jail.
I have no doubt. The scale with which we've been seeing the crimes that he and his criminal regime in the White House have operated are just breathtaking. I mean, it makes Bush's crime spree look like stealing a candy bar from the liquor store. It's
Yeah.
not even comparable. He's going to be prosecuted. I promise you.
Oh, I just realized that was actually the same analogy that Sean Hannity was using for Spygate or whatever it was. He was saying Spygate makes Watergate look like stealing a Snickers bar, and like he used
Yeah, and
that
he makes
analogy over and
Watergate look
over
like
again.
stupid Watergate. Yeah.
Or like that was like what John Oliver called it.
Yep.
Or like yeah, this is stupid Watergate. Um, Another thing we could talk about is, I guess, like Joe Biden's cabinet picks, because lately his cabinet picks have been looking a little bit better. Early on, they like not
Well,
only
that's good.
what
Yeah.
was he uh picking people who probably just weren't amazing, he was picking people who were actively terrible. But lately, like his health and human services pick supports Medicare for all, which like that surprised me that he would pick that kind of person. What was his name? Xavier
Javier Becerra. Yeah, he was
Sarah.
actually my representative for my district for a while before he got ran for AG.
Yeah,
He's good.
yeah. Like he's currently your AG, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Like because I was looking him up and I saw that like California Attorney General. I didn't know if like it had former in front of it or not, but Uh, Marsha Fudge for his HUD pick. I don't know much about her, but what I do know is that she did vote for that 10% military cut, which shows that that at least progressives can work with her. She has some basic common fucking sense. And, you know, so like, and I think she was on the list of, she was like, there was like some progressive organization that had a list of people that they recommended for these positions. They didn't have, uh, Xavier, keep forgetting his last name, but like they
Javier
didn't have,
Becerra, yeah.
yeah, but like you can't possibly cover everyone who would be a good pick. But they added Marsha Fudge to that list right before like she was selected, and there was also his latest pick for EPA, which and she was uh, she was director of like climate research or something like that in North Carolina, and climate change is one of those things in which Democrats in general are actually just they're at least decent, whereas in most issues like they could just be summed up as better than Trump or better than Republicans, which isn't saying much. But climate is definitely one of those issues. And then
But
there is
he's going to have a
also
climate advisor too, which is really, really good.
yeah, like as long as we're not like putting like coal lobbyists in the EPA, which is definitely great.
Yeah.
You know,
For people that don't know what in the fuck the department does, like Rick Perry.
yeah. And then
Where y'all got your nukes around here?
well, yeah, like that's
uh,
the department he forgot in the 2012 debate. Now he
yeah,
runs it. So
yeah.
like what was it like? We're gonna cut commerce, education, and what
I
was the third
forgot
one?
the third, but we're gonna cut those three.
Yeah.
He's just Bush, like this Bush's spirit animal. God, I hate him so much. Just stupid, faux tough talking Texan. He's a bitch.
Yeah. And I also think more people were executed under him in Texas than like other than any other governor in the US.
Probably. I'm still baffled though. The Pete Buttigieg pick is not a good pick. He
Yeah.
could have been doing so many other things if they really wanted to give him a position. He could have done something in the VA, or like I told you, something in communications. Maybe not press secretary, but director of comms or something in that area because he's so good at beating the shit out of these Fox loons. What I read when he was mayor of South Bend, the black community there was pretty pissed off about the way he ran the infrastructure. So why would you pick a guy that doesn't necessarily have a lot of expertise in infrastructure, and also when he was in charge of it didn't do a particularly great job? So that's one, but it just also smacks of politics, because his the specifics of him not being particularly outstandingly qualified for the role. It seems like Biden is just like, okay, you're a young kid, you're obviously going to be a big thing in the future, so here, just have a job and use it on your resume and run for something. Just fuck off. So and then also there's his DOD pick, which was a board member for Raytheon, if I remember right. I think it's DOD,
Yeah.
and was also a former general. It's the same thing that Trump did. Like, come on, guys, this is not what we voted for you for.
But he's going to be the first black head of the Defense Department. Don't you want that?
I mean, if that's your goal, you're telling me you can't find someone else? I mean, there's so many. The black community is so incredibly talented, skilled, and they have to work way harder than me with my white ass privilege to be able to get to where they are. There are more than enough qualified candidates. They just need to look. So if I mean, I know you're saying that facetiously, but if that's really their reasoning, they ain't looking hard enough.
Yeah, like I think if you served on the board of any military contractor or any part of the military industrial complex, that automatically should disqualify you from serving in the Defense Department. Because you're gonna have a conflict of interest. You're gonna lobby for more war, or like the endless war that we're in right now. And also, it's just like, regardless of my personal feelings about Pete Buttigieg, I do not have the kindest of opinions about him because he just seems like a political opportunist. But just like with his experience, it's just transportation doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't. He should have been in VA or again in comms or something.
yeah, like if anything, like I would prefer he would not be in the cabinet at all. But like if he had to be in there, then like sure, like that would make VA would make more sense, you know, because like he like of his military experience, and and then also Neera Tanden, like head of like she's gonna control the budget, and it's just like, and she's a deficit hawk, so it's like we're not gonna get any like Keynesian spending done. I mean, like uh Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary, I have mixed feelings about her, but like overall she does have a Keynesian view of economics, and Keynesian economics is what is gets us out of recessions, and we're kind of in depression territory at this point. But yeah, like that's not going to matter if we have a deficit hawk at the head of who's going to control the budget. It's so
Yeah.
it's just like, and also like Neera Tanden, as the head of Center for American Progress, like her second job was pretty much just like arguing with left wingers on Twitter for no reason than just doing it. It's just, the left does not have the kindest of opinions about her either.
I know, and you and I differ on that. I don't think that she's necessarily the best pick for OMB, but I also don't have big problems with her. I became a big fan of her when I first saw her on Bill Maher ripping the shit out of Rick Santorum. I mean, it was like the Braveheart scene. She was ripping out his metaphorical guts. Um, Not that that's particularly hard to do with idiots like Rick Santorum, but
Yeah.
she goes toe to toe with these Republicans and she spars with them and she intimates what her policy agenda is while she's doing it. So I respect that. Yes, she argues with lefty Twitter because she has differing opinions with the progressives. That's part of the political process.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
I am a fan of her. I will be a fan of hers. Again, maybe not OMB, but if she is a deficit hawk, I mean, it makes sense that she would be doing something running money, right? I think that the depiction that she's such a deficit hawk that she won't do anything to help folks, I don't think that's particularly accurate. I think that she is a reasonable person and she is pretty progressive on certain things, especially the minimum wage, and that's a starting point for any middle ground. And she wanted to have some kind of a public option. Well, of course, that was after Joe Biden said he wanted it, but she's not against it either.
Yeah. And the other thing is like she is like a Clinton loyalist, and
Oh
that's
yeah, yeah.
and then her own mother explains that the reason why she's like endlessly loyal to Hillary Clinton no matter what is because Hillary Clinton made her, and it got to the point where like Faiz Shakir, who was Bernie's campaign manager, back in 2008, when Hillary Clinton was running in the Democratic primary, then he was a reporter asking Hillary Clinton about her support for the Iraq War, which had been plaguing her that entire campaign. And Neera Tanden came back and punched him in the chest.
That's a little overblown. That's not entirely. It wasn't a punch. People who are saying that was a punch have never been punched before. There was definitely a physical. There was a physical altercation, but it wasn't.
There's
It
some
wasn't a
claiming
punch.
that she was just like pushing him, but
Correct.
still, like either way,
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
not
Definitely
good.
not good. Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, that I'm always in this weird position as a progressive where I actually love the shit out of Hillary Clinton and the Clintons. Not so much Bill because there's pretty clear evidence that he is at minimum a rapist.
At minimum,
with Juanita Broderick. But I am still a fan of Clinton's legacy and what he did in the White House. I am a fan of Hillary, and I'm also a big fan of Bernie and AOC. I don't know how I am the troll under the bridge between progressives and moderate Democrats. I don't know how it works out, but I'm in no man's land of that section.
Yeah, you know what? Like that reminds me of kind of like where like you and I think both follow Ryan Knight, right?
I did, but he's his stuff, his views on Russia and the way he's handled some of the other issues, I can't support that.
Well, like he went from like, yeah, like I mean, I guess like where you are kind of reminded me of where he was, and kind of like where I was too, and like I don't know, like I still follow Ryan because I like, and I agree with him more now than I did before, because like he's
Mm.
definitely come around on certain things. And like it's really interesting watching him because his political evolution kind of mirrored mine in a way. Because like it was about a year ago that I really started getting into like progressive media and like progressive Twitter.
Mm.
And and like I had always like just like him, like he and I had always like supported like progressive policies, like Medicare for all, free college, minimum wage, like living minimum wage, that kind of thing. It's just like it took us a little bit longer to realize not all of the Democrats were like that. I guess we kind of viewed the Democratic Party through the Republican lens, but thinking that all of that stuff was, but thinking that that was all great. You know, like, like, does that make sense in a way? It's like, like Republicans calling Democrats socialists. And I was like, cool. I agree with that. He was like, I
I'm
like that
in.
all the
Yeah.
Democrats are socialists. So like I viewed it through that lens, and then like it took me a while to realize, oh wait, yeah, like most Democrats are not
Yeah.
socialists. It's
Exactly. It shows how complete. Not only do Republicans not know what in the fuck socialism is, but they also don't. They're really stupid to think that all Democrats are socialists, because people that actually advocate for socialist policies, like you and I, know that probably more than half the Democratic caucus is definitely not even close to it. And it annoys me that we could certainly push them further towards advocating for like Medicare for all, minimum wage, et cetera, if they weren't such chicken shits. Because I told you this, the Republicans always play the socialist cards, and the Democrats on the debate stage are like, oh, what do I
yeah,
say? What do I do? It's
yeah,
like, don't run from it. Stand by it. That's what they're for. They favor socialism. They want to have taxpayer funded bailouts for the rich. They want to have taxpayer funded Medicare for themselves, and they want to have taxpayer funded salaries for our soldiers. On that
yeah.
last point, we agree, but they want socialist benefits for the rich, not the people who need it. That should be the Democratic messaging, and they're such fucking cowards
Yeah.
for walking away from it.
Yeah, like because like the Democrats out like on that point, like I would divide the Democrats into three different groups. Those like me and you who actually advocate for those things. I mean, like I don't really consider myself a Democrat anymore. Like I'm a Bernie style independent at this point. And then there's, the people like the chicken shits like Joe Manchin who just like don't believe in it. It's just
Yeah.
like, Steny Hoyer, Joe Manchin, all of those assholes. And then you have the people in the middle who like may or may not support it. We don't know. They're very wishy-washy, either because like they're afraid that the left might come after them for not supporting
Yeah.
it, or like the center
They
will go
favor
after
the
them
political
for
wins.
supporting it.
Every time an issue comes up, they go outside and they're like, okay, the wind is blowing that way. I'm going that way.
Yeah, and it's like these are careerists, and they just don't really believe in anything, or like if they did, they're and that's the thing, and that's kind of like where Kamala was caught up in, like that's kind of like the area where I think Kamala was caught up during the primary, in which she was trying to appease everybody, and when you try to appease
Mm-hmm.
everybody, you appease nobody, and that's
Mm-hmm. Very good,
and
man.
that's
Very good.
the sad reality. It's just like take a fucking stand,
And I think
and
that's why Democrats lose. When the times that they lose, I think that's why, is because they don't take a stand on so many of the issues, or the stand that they take is not authentic. With all due respect, Hillary had some things that she was not authentic about.
yeah,
Not nearly as much as, of course, the Republicans made out to be, but you could just tell she was reserved. I love Hillary ever since she lost. Man, she has been way more cool to listen to when she's just unfiltered. The shit she was saying about Bernie in the primaries, that was a bad choice, in my opinion. But whatever, she's still fun to listen to on that. And Joe Manchin, it's like, dude, if you were to run on shit, you wouldn't have to worry about where your policies stand, because West Virginia passed a Medicaid expansion. They passed a minimum wage law. I haven't looked into their climate change agenda, but maybe there's shit there. Like, Joe, you are a dinosaur. Like, there's a reason the meteor is coming for you and not AOC. And it has nothing to do with her being in a blue district. It has everything to do with your vision of what the Democratic Party stands for being outdated and incorrect.
yeah. And it's like I try to be a moderate, and like I listen to both the left and the right.
You've got
And
his
like
accent.
I'm a proud West. Well, like it's easier because like I'm from
Right,
like
right.
near that area. But like it's like I try to be, like right in the center. But the problem is like your center between absolute ridiculousness and just like corruption. It's just like like you're between far right and center right, and that where does that leave you? Like that still makes you far right. So like you're not really a moderate. If anything, Bernie's
Yeah.
a moderate. So it's like, and also like
It's like,
Bernie
how far
represents
right do
the
I have
party.
to turn before I'm no longer right? You're still
Mm-hmm.
right, asshole. You're still in the
Yeah,
right.
yeah, and then like yeah, and then people like he was on the View, and like I don't know why I ever liked the View, but like the View is just they're just like oh I really like that, you know, like Joe Manchin was basically saying that exact same shit, and like oh I really like that, you know, especially Meghan McCain. I mean I never
Hmm.
really liked Meghan McCain, except like I guess when I was in just like my like hashtag resist phase, in which just like anyone that went after Trump regardless of what they were like otherwise, you know, I saw as golden, and that included
Yeah.
Meghan McCain. Even though, like in some
She had
ways,
her moments.
she's further to the right of Trump in some respects, especially like on foreign
Yeah.
policy. At least, yeah, it's like, yeah, and or at least like I mean, Donald Trump when it came to like how he executed his foreign policy vision, with the exception of North Korea, mostly just stayed in the neoconservative lane, in which it was just like endless war all the time. And I think part of that is because he doesn't really have an ideology. Like I've realized a long
Yeah.
time ago, rich people don't have an ideology. They're just opportunists who just go for whatever makes them richer, or like you know, and they're very much in that lane of you know just like which way's the wind blowing. Like yeah, like they're pretty much they're very much like that. And Trump maybe not be like that, but what he is like is he's just like the kind of person who just listens to who just does based on whatever the most recent person in the room says. And
Yeah.
he's in his foreign policy, you know, like in his foreign policy area, like in the foreign policy area of his cabinet, like he filled it to the brim with neoconservatives like John Bolton, uh, Mike Pompeo,
Ugh.
and you know
Rex
Gina
Tillerson.
Haspel, yeah, Rex Tillerson. Rex Tillerson, like I mean, I don't even know. Like he was just like he was the head of Exxon Mobil. I don't know why they thought he thought he was ever a good idea for uh Secretary of State. I mean,
Because he donated a shitload of money, and supposedly they used his diplomatic ties overseas as a reason for, oh yeah, he can run Secretary of State. No, not when he's in debt to these fuckers, just like Trump is.
yeah,
I got time for one other thing, but I wanted to. I'm sorry to I didn't mean to hijack, but I really wanted to
no,
ask you about this.
yeah, no,
Is
no
that okay?
problem.
Okay. The Lincoln Party reached out to AOC to, because they want to work together with her because, they want to further the country and the cause and fight fascism and enable democracy.
I mean the
Now,
Lincoln
I see
Project.
this as, yeah, you heard about this, right?
Uh, uh, no, like I haven't heard about what
Oh,
you're talking about, but yeah, like I know who the Lincoln Project is.
yeah. So they reached out to they reached out to AOC on Twitter. I'm sure they did other, call her office, whatever, because they want to work with her in camaraderie to expand democracy, whatever I can't remember their exact reason. But I view it as a good thing. Now, lefty Twitter was off the rails about it, saying, no, they're just, they're still Republicans. They're just trying to get a new donor base. And I mean, well, yeah, they're still Republicans. They're going to have a conservative ideology. Nothing is going to change that. But if you use them to help expand and fight, because I don't think lefty Twitter really understands how close we came to losing our democracy. I mean, you listen to all of the authoritarian experts, and I promise you, I do. This close, brother, this close. There's a reason that I cried when Biden won, because I knew that I was about to lose my country, and thank God we didn't. So them
Yeah,
reaching out is a good thing, but lefty Twitter was upset about that. And that's fine. Remember that they are Republicans. They're always going to be against Medicare for all and raising the minimum wage, but we can use them. They can be helpful in making sure we at least have a democracy to vote on those things. Never lose sight of who they are, but for fuck's sake, let's have an ally when we can.
yeah. Like I have, you know, like when it comes to like working on the other side, like I definitely think there's room for that. Like as far as the Lincoln Project, I think you know very well I'm not a fan of them. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
they
We've
are
talked about that.
Bush era neocons, you
Mm-hmm.
know, who lied us into the Iraq war. Every one of them deserves to be in prison. Uh, but the thing is like, and the thing is like them reaching out to AOC, like I guess that I mean, as far right as they are, I guess that shows something. I don't know. Maybe they are willing to work the other side, but when it comes to like working with Republicans, um, you you should be able to do it on your own terms, because the way Democrats typically work with Republicans is they start on the compromise of the compromise of the
Yeah, you
compromise,
mentioned that. Mhm.
and they don't share any like goals, or like they don't have like a, or like if they might start out with a goal but then their goal changes. Like when you're trying to work with someone, you have to look for like overlap rather than just capitulating to a position you don't believe in. And I think a great example of this is, Bernie Sanders is working with, Trump style like populist Republican Josh Hawley, on stimulus checks. And
Yeah.
like I do not like Josh Hawley, and I disagree with him on so many other issues. I think he's a fake populist, because I think populism is almost inherently left wing. Anytime right wingers use populism, it's usually as a propaganda tool, or like a, like very much like how Hitler and Mussolini have used populism. It's basically just
Hmm.
used as a marketing tactic.
Hmm.
Uh, but um, but yeah, if Josh Hawley really believes in more stimulus checks, you work with him on that. Bernie Sanders
Yeah, at
a
minimum,
couple
force him
years
to take a
ago.
vote on it.
Yeah, like Bernie Sanders a couple years ago worked with Utah Senator Mike Lee
Hmm.
on, you know, making sure we don't arm, Saudi Arabia and aiding and abetting their genocide in Yemen. They could come to those agreements in different ways. Like it's very possible Mike Lee just doesn't like Muslims and he doesn't want to arm them. But like still,
Which is probably what it is.
but like very likely. I mean, I don't know much about Mike Lee other than, like he worked with Bernie Sanders on this and he's quite conservative. I mean, he's from Utah. But like the end result is going to be the same if we work together on this issue. We're going to be saving, like we would be saving, millions, potentially millions of lives in Yemen. And we would be cutting business ties with Saudi Arabia, which is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East, not Iran. I don't know why they keep on saying Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism. I don't even know why they kept on trying to sell like Soleimani as this
Well, so they
awful
wanted a
terrorist
war.
guy. But
Yeah, they
like,
wanted a war. That's all it
yeah,
was.
Soleimani like actually helped us defeat ISIS. Like he was the leader of the Quds force, and like in the Quds and the Kurds both together worked with the United States military to defeat ISIS. So like he was fighting terrorism. And also like Iran as, like you can criticize the Iranian government for so many things, and this is one of them. Like they are uh fundamentalist Muslims, but they're of a very different kind of like fundamentalism rather than like set that's different and opposing to like what most jihadist groups believe in. So it's not like so like as far as their religious interests, it would be very contradictory for them to aid and out and align themselves with these certain jihadist groups, you know. And on top of that, like it and actually like they're saying that, Soleimani was working on a imminent strike towards the United States.
Eh,
Like according to like other sources, he was actually on his way to a peace mission, when he was killed. And is
yeah.
and but anyway, like back to what I was saying, so like I like if AOC was working with the Lincoln Project on things that they actually genuinely agreed on, it could be like just like, just a united cause against fascism, which I think is a little rich for the Lincoln Project, being that the Bush
They kind of
administration,
started it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they were kind of fascist in their own ways. They were just a little bit more quiet about it, you
Hmm.
know.
They didn't push it as far.
But yeah, like if they can find some kind of ideological overlap and work on that, I would have nothing against that. But if AOC were to like just completely give in and work on like causing more war, or like looking for asymmetric warfare with Russia, because something like that, because a lot of Lincoln Project ads are basically just like, let's like Russia attacked our country, so let's go to war with them, which is the exact opposite of what people should like, what people want and what you should want, because it's
Well, it's a little tough now after this hack. this latest hack by Russia. This is big. This is, make no mistake, an act of war. I'm not saying we need to go to war. That's something we should fight to not do. But shit, we gotta do something.
Yeah.
We gotta do something.
I have mixed feelings on like the Russia thing as well. Like not going to the point where like say like Russia didn't attack us. Like what are you talking about? Because they like Russian interference in our elections is definitely a problem and it should be addressed. But like it's becoming a thing in which, anything that is it's becoming like a new type of McCarthyism in a way, in which like anytime like you bring up any problem in the nation, this was like I'll use an example like during like the Black Lives Matter protests in like back in June when like those were like peaking.
Oh yeah, I was there.
Like yeah, we're talking. Yeah, you were on the front lines with that in
Yeah,
LA.
I was there when it all went to shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and like bringing up those problems like let's talk about racial inequality, let's talk about police brutality, let's talk about the economic conditions of Black and brown people. Susan Rice was up there on CNN saying we shouldn't talk about that. Russia wants to talk about that. Russia wants to talk about our problems because it's basically just because like basically saying like we're basically comes down to like we're talking about how bad Russia is to their people, in which they are, but like they want us to talk about like how bad our government is to people, so that way they can get away with shit or whatever. It's becoming a new
And
McCarthyism.
she is correct, but it's a political strategy, and it was not the right choice in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just like I don't care like what Russia wants us to talk about, or even who like Russia supports. That was another thing, like saying like, oh, Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset, like Russia supports her, like they were saying about Bernie, back in 2016. They're also saying that about him in 2020. It's just like there's ideological reasons for that. Both of them are very, take a very non-interventionist approach to foreign policy, and and it's another thing. It's like like who Russia's favorite candidate was in 2008 and 2012? Obama, for the very simple reason that he, in both of those campaigns, he also took a very non-interventionist position. And, like he famously told Mitt Romney, like the 1980s called, they want their foreign policy back. So it's just like,
yeah,
like,
I remember that.
Yeah, like I don't care like what Putin or what the Russian government wants us to talk about. Like I'm going to talk about what I believe in. I'm going to talk about what I think needs to be addressed. Like, and if it helps Russian propaganda, whatever, as long as we're going to get these things done that need to get done. Because, like if addressing Black Lives Matter is going to help Russia, like just whatever, it needs to be addressed. Like that we need to do something about it. You know what I mean? It's
yeah. I got to run, but I want to leave on this note. We need to take Russia's attacks on our country much more seriously. It really kind of reminds me in a way of healthcare, because with like mental health, the stigma against it, because if you're dying of cancer, you're going to immediately treat that. You're going to go to the hospital, you're going to take drugs, chemotherapy, whatever. But if you're slowly dying from a mental health issue, it's like, okay, whatever. No, you should go to the doctor for that as well. Now, with Russia, there's a difference between them favoring a candidate and actively making that candidate the one that is in power. And that is exactly what happened in 2016. They favored Trump, and they worked by the way they did it. I've read the Mueller report, and the way they did it is scary. They knew this country better than any of these faux patriot, red-blooded Republican motherfuckers, and they knew exactly how to exploit it. And they did. They did exactly that. Because what happens is then you get Trump. And look at what's happened. We have lost our standing overseas. The EU lost Britain. NATO has seen serious hits to its credibility. We've left the WHO. All of these things take America out of the leadership role and gives Russia more standing in the world. And that's exactly what they've done. They've increased their diplomatic ties with Iran, with China, and that is very scary that they can have that much power over us. Lastly, all this whole Russia hack started with Trump because he had a lackadaisical approach to Russia, and so they were able to infiltrate us. And now they're going to have so much compromise on this. There's a very big difference between McCarthyism, which literally was a witch hunt. It was not particularly grounded on anything factual. Now, Russia's attacks on our country is very, very real, and we should be scared and we should be aware. And you are correct. We should also talk about the Black Lives Matter issues, regardless of what Russia wants, because Black lives do fucking matter. But I really do got to split, and I'm selfish, so I'm going to end on me getting the last word.
Well, like, but yeah, I'm just gonna say, yeah, like, even if
Oh,
you
go ahead,
don't
go ahead.
think that, yeah, even if you don't think that, you know, like, and like, I don't think necessarily, like, I think the Mueller report showed this, that that Trump was not necessarily like a Manchurian candidate for Russia. That doesn't change the fact that Russia didn't interfere in our elections. You know, no matter what, like, you think the relationship between Trump and Putin is, you know, like, it happened, but
PP tape.
yeah. I mean, and yeah, like, I think, yeah, that's another reason why the Russia investigation failed, but that's or like it flopped in the way that it did, because like anything short of, it was built up to a point, because like anything short of getting the PP tape would have been considered a flop. I think that's
Yeah.
partially the media's fault for hyping it up so much, but yeah, like, I think that's a good place to stop, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Absolutely, brother.
But yeah, like, all you at home, subscribe, like this video, and yeah, so have a nice night, everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother.